On the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletic teams and administration each week. Presented by Gamebridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
Hey Cardinals fans, welcome into episode 15 of This Week in Ball State Sports. Today we have a loaded show for you. Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell breaks down what the football season was and how we're looking forward to 2024 and beyond for the football program. Also take a step in the direction of women's volleyball, wrap up their season, get ready for men's volleyball with Donan Cruz joining the show, the head coach for Ball State entering his third season. A great conversation with him. We'll chat with women's swimmer and diver Laura Wright about her journey at Ball State, her academic career, how she's seen the team grow this season, and what she thinks this women's swimming and diving team could be in the future. Plenty coming up, but don't forget to visit ballstatesports.com because new schedules are out. Men's and women's tennis. Gymnastics has red and white this Friday to kick off the year. Volleyball on the men's side starting in January on the 2nd. So much to look forward to. BallStateSports.com is your place to get all of that content. Men's and women's basketball, obviously in the full swing of things there as well. We'll sit down with Jeff Mitchell on the other side of this break. Brought to you in part by Gamebridge on the Learfield Radio Network.
They fly down the court and fly through the air.
Left to right in transition, skies, flies, and dunks.
And we fly with the Cardinals.
Steele, top of the key, nobody in front of him, two-hand thunderous slam. Pearson, left corner, eyes and flies, and drops.
This is your home for Ball State Cardinals basketball.
Buzzer sound, and they hang on with a defensive stand.
The Ball State Sports Network from Learfield.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gamebridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gamebridge.io.
Hey Cardinals fans, welcome back inside episode 15 of This Week in Ball State Sports. Final month of 2023, just beginning December, lots of Ball State happenings, and we're chatting about it all with Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell. Jeff, appreciate you joining the show.
Mick, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Jeff, so we've got, just over 25 days left of December. There's so much to talk about with the remaining 2023 slate, but I want to turn back just a little bit. Women's volleyball just finished up its season, postseason play. You had a chance to go down and see them play, also watch your daughter play some soccer at the same time. Just putting a bow on women's volleyball season, how would you describe the performance down in Tennessee?
Well, it was a neat experience to go watch them play, and they were so excited to be in that postseason environment. And on Friday night, play in Middle Tennessee, got off to a great start and had to battle a little bit. Middle Tennessee is a good program. They were a program with 20 wins and battled back and almost captured the momentum. And then we just battled in that fourth set. We were down by as many as 4 or 5 points multiple times throughout that fourth game and just continued to fight. A lot of grit and came back and won it in dramatic fashion. And so that was a fitting victory for that team because they had failed to finish some down the stretch in some matches. And so to kind of prove to them that they could do that, I think against a really good team on their home court, I think was really important. Then they follow up against a really good Clemson program, and it was a heck of a volleyball match. And goes to 5 sets, and obviously we fell short. But I think that Coach Miller-Phillips was very proud of her team. I think the seniors really appreciated the opportunity to play in the postseason, and I think the younger student-athletes really benefited from being in that environment to understand, hey, this is kind of what it takes to get to the postseason, and this is what the kind of competition it looks like in postseason play. So it's very much worth it. Program building, momentum building going into the off season for our talented volleyball team.
Jeff, you also had a chance to watch your daughter play soccer, too. How special was it to be able to go from one event to the next and all be within a 15 to 20-minute span when you're on the road?
Well, Murfreesboro, Tennessee is an awesome setting for that type of deal, and it was just purely coincidental that volleyball was playing there. But I had planned to take Harper to play soccer this weekend. She's a member of the FC Pride ECNL soccer program based out of Indianapolis, and they had a showcase in Murfreesboro. And then when it lined up for volleyball, I'm like, well, this is great. So we'll mix in some volleyball and some soccer all at the same time. But a special weekend for Harper and me to enjoy father-daughter time and celebrate around sports, not only for the sport that she loves, but also around a sport that's near and dear to a lot of people in the Muncie and Ball State community with volleyball.
Director of Athletics Jeff Mitchell joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports. Jeff, volleyball's in the books for on the women's side. Men's volleyball starts here in a couple of weeks. Also in the books, football, 2023 behind us from the football season. How are we looking forward with this Ball State football program?
Yeah, well, we're certainly not satisfied with where we are from a 4-8 mark this past year. That's been a conversation that Coach New and I have had throughout the course of the season. We had a meeting near the tail end of the year just to talk about how things were going, and then certainly last Monday after the season ended, we sat and talked at length about various aspects of the program. One of the things that we're going to do going forward is really evaluate where we are institutionally, athletic department-wise, and football program-wise in terms of where we want football to be down the line. And we're in such a rapidly changing landscape right now in intercollegiate athletics, and there's no sport that is impacted as substantially in this new landscape than football. And so we're looking at every element of the program, and so he's going to get members of his staff, we're going to get members of our staff, and we're going to get it together and talk about various disciplines within the program that we need to address and to improve. And we're talking about things like nutrition and elements of strength and conditioning. What can we do to provide opportunities for more competitive outcomes? And we'll take a look at scheduling. There's the list can be pretty expansive, and Coach and I are very excited about getting in a room together. I'm not sure that this has been done in some time, and so we're going to have administrators, we're going to have support staff, we're going to have coaches that are going to come together as one common team, trying to address issues that perhaps are getting in our way of being successful. Will that lead to immediate success in the future year in 24? I don't know. I certainly hope so. But it's something that we need to do due diligence on to prepare for success going forward. And we need to instill that level of thinking within the program and within the athletic department. So I'm really looking forward to it. And we're continuing to monitor what the NCAA landscape looks like from a football standpoint, and it's ever-changing. I do think that the MAC is particularly well situated with regard to how we're positioned, not only geographically, but also just in terms of the competitiveness within the league, and that's very healthy. But we want to dominate that league, and in order to do that, I think we have to do some introspection in order for us to feel comfortable going forward with a plan that's going to lead to some success.
Jeff, you mentioned being competitive in the MAC, and in the football landscape, the MAC changing a little bit too. The divisions are no longer going to be a thing within the conference, no longer East and West. How do you think that changes the landscape of football in the MAC? Yeah,
and that's part of these conversations is recognizing that we are changing, and how the schedule is going to shake out. We don't know yet what the 2024 conference schedule is going to be, but we're trying to get prepared for it. We know we're going to play a pair of teams, but what do the other teams look like? And so we've got some work to do. I think that from a MAC standpoint, ensuring that the top two teams in the league year in, year out are going to play each other for a conference championship is really healthy for the league. To really guarantee that you've got the best representative coming out of that championship game, potentially to play in a playoff situation as the expanded playoffs come to fruition in the next year. I think that's really important. I know there's some detractors to the change, but at the end of the day, the league needs to be well positioned to have a potential participant in the CFP playoff system, and this is the way to ensure that.
Jeff, it's pretty fun to look at the pod setup, too. There's 4 groups of 3 in the pods, Ball State, Miami of Ohio, and then Ohio within Ball State's pod. So they have those protected games that they'll play, those 2 teams every year, and then rotate throughout the seasons moving forward with other teams. How do you think that sets up intriguing rivalry matchups, intriguing matchups to have those teams always on the schedule?
Well, I think from a geography standpoint, it builds in very natural rivals for us in terms of being able to watch us play on the road or for visiting teams to come to Schumann Stadium and watch their team play. I think it's just a natural outcome of a pod system, and I think the league was very intentional about putting schools in close proximity with each other in that same pod. I think that going forward as the schedule unfolds and we are playing every team home and away within the league once every handful of years, I'll describe it like that, I think it is great for the league, for every team to play every other school in the league over the course of a 3 or 4 year period.
You won't go 9 years without playing Toledo anymore, or certain teams like Bowling Green.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's a number of those instances that have happened over the years. And I think, again, with the close proximity of the geography of the league, that every team should be able to play each other. And this accomplishes that as well. And again, it's just good for the league, and certainly I think contributes to the continued parity that's within the league. You know, with Miami's victory over Toledo in the championship game on Saturday, that was the 11th consecutive year that there's been no back-to-back champion. So it's up for grabs every year in the MAC, and that makes it fun.
It does make it fun. Jeff Mitchell, Director of Athletics of Ball State, joining us here on episode 15 of This Week in Ball State Sports. Jeff, men's and women's basketball both come off pretty big wins. Ball State women's team on the road at St. Louis. The men hosted Bellarmine and picked up a win there. Those 2 programs back in the win column.
Yeah, continuing to play well, and particularly proud of the men for punching back. It's a punch-back win after dropping a contest to Little Rock. Still trying to figure out the road woes. We'll have a test again as the men travel to Detroit to play Detroit Mercy this week. And then on the women's side, huge road win for them. So you've got an experienced team that is really starting to find its rhythm, and not only offensively but defensively as well. They really won that game using some defensive effort at a tough place to play against a really good team in St. Louis. So proud of our women's basketball team and what they're continuing to accomplish. We've got another big test on the road coming up this week at UConn, which is a meaningful game for our basketball team and UConn's basketball team as well, with 2 sisters going at it. But we have some exciting basketball ahead of us, I think, on both the men's and the women's side. So really looking forward to this tail end of the non-conference season, and as we look forward to conference play that starts in January for both teams, it will be a wild ride. I think a lot of fun.
Hard to believe we're almost at the end of non-conference. Like this is started December, and we've hit the point where there's 4 or 5 left in non-conference, and then we pony up and get ready for January.
Yeah, it goes by quickly, and we've got a few more opportunities to catch our teams in Worthen. The men have I guess, 1, and the women have 1, and then we have the neutral setting on the men's side on the 16th at Cambridge, which will be exciting against a really good Indiana State team. So a lot of meaningful basketball coming up over the next several weeks for both programs as they continue to build their portfolio going into conference play. So it's a wonderful time of the year. I love it. I think it's great, and And I think both of our clubs will be positioned to have success in league play based on the type of schedules that they've played. Coaches spend a lot of time on putting together schedules that they think are going to be the most beneficial to the program that they have going in to be the most competitive that they can be going into league play. So I think Coach Salih on the women's side has built a really difficult, strong schedule that is really going to help his team going into conference play. And I think they're going to benefit from the success that they've had thus far in their non-conference segment, just as we look to potential postseason opportunities. Same thing on the men's side with Coach Lewis. I think he recognized the type of team he was going to have and putting together a schedule where it's equal parts challenging and equal parts manageable in terms of developing confidence in his young team. And I was at practice earlier, and the message today is, we've got to have the same demeanor, the same level of intensity, the same level of desire to win on the road as we're displaying within Worthen Arena, and that's something that a young team has got to figure out. And so I think the way the schedule has stacked up, it puts us in a position to try to go do that this week and get that monkey off our back, and then we continue to build and grow. But there's a lot of promise coming out of that men's side.
Gymnastics, red and white event this week. Swimming just gets back from Minnesota. Tons happening still in the month of December. It'd be really good to have gymnastics back into the fold of things. I know red and white signals the beginning of that season. Swimming concluded their competition in Minnesota, but those two programs also full swing too.
Yeah, you start talking about gymnastics, you start talking about swim and dive, you start talking about indoor track. The indoor track just had a kind of a tune-up event over the weekend as well. And then, of course, we'll talk about men's volleyball as the new year begins. But, yeah, it's coming. It just keeps coming. I know we've talked about that before, but Joanna Salim and her gymnastics team, they had a ring ceremony on Saturday before the basketball game. And Coach Salim texted me saying, because I'd apologized for not being able to make it there. I wanted to be there, and obviously I was with volleyball and with Harper and playing soccer. But she said, "Well, we'll just have to do it again." And I said, "Now we're talking." So I think they're excited about the team that they have, and I look forward to watching them. The red and white event is a neat event to get. Set the tone kind of going into the gymnastics season. And then I think there were some positive results coming out of our indoor track event over the weekend, and certainly swim and dive continued to perform well. And so there's a lot of momentum going into this winter season.
Jeff, we'll talk to you next week on episode 16 of This Week in Ball State Sports. Until then, appreciate you hopping on as always.
Mick, it's always a pleasure. Go Cards.
They fly down the court and fly through the air.
Left to right in transition, skies, flies, and dunks.
And we fly with the Cardinals.
Steele, top of the key, nobody in front of him, two-hand thunderous slam. Pearson, left corner, eyes and flies, and drops.
This is your home for Ball State Cardinals basketball.
Buzzer sounds, and they hang on with a defensive stand.
The Ball State Sports Network from Learfield.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. Gainbridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at Gainbridge.io.
Hey, Cardinals fans, welcome back to This Week in Ball State Sports. We've hit episode 15, and we are closing in on men's volleyball season. So that means we're joined by head coach Donan Cruz of Ball State men's volleyball. Coach, appreciate your time here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Excited that we're about a month away from opening day, which is going to be here in no time. And, excited to sit down and have a conversation.
Coach, a month away from first serve. When you hear that, what's going through your mind right now?
Well, we're in last week of classes and finals around the corner next week. So, we're just trying to be end on a high note in the classroom. But, it's exciting. We know that our our Ball State community embraces volleyball, and our women just ended another really good season, and we want to kind of continue that momentum into what we're doing. And anytime we get to compete in Worthen to play some men's volleyball is an exciting time.
Coach, what excites you most about this season's group?
Well, we got a lot of returners and a lot of really new faces, really good new faces. We got 9 new guys, and I think a handful of those guys are going to make an immediate impact. So we're going to get to see some student athletes out there that we haven't seen before, and we're really excited about that. And this group I'm entering my 3rd season, and this group has a lot of the guys that we recruited and will be freshmen and sophomores here, and being able to see them gel so quickly within the last 3 months has been pretty fun to see.
Where do you think the team has grown the most so far since they first walked on campus this year to now December 5th as we get ready to go for the first match?
Yeah, for such a young team, kind of overall, the amount of growth and leadership has been probably the most impressive. And then just the commitment. Our guys are the kind of group right now that shows up early and stays late. And, with the way contact hours work, a lot of that is voluntary, and they got to come up with that internally amongst them as players. And to see that in this group in such a short period of time, those are the things that make a big difference when it comes down to knowing what your team has. And I think from a commitment level, I think we're all in.
Coach, how do you want to see this team grow between now and first serve?
Well, we need to make sure that we are taking care of our bodies over break. Sadly, the way our schedules work is we won't see the guys until right after Christmas, and we've been done with our kind of quote unquote fall season for almost over a week now. And when you don't have contact with the group for a month leading into first competition, which will then be in 7 days, you just really want to make sure our guys are in a good condition physically. But I feel good about where we're at volleyball, just about showing back up and being ready to go.
You mentioned the fall season. That's always an important piece to the puzzle to make sure that you're ready for the spring season. How would you assess how the fall went?
I think really well. We got a lot of competition in every position, and we're pretty deep in terms of, I think, four positions where we got guys that I think our third guy can be on the court, and we wouldn't feel like we're in a bad spot at that point. So for us to be able to have that day in and day out in the fall was great. And I feel like a lot of our guys on the top side of those positions are really starting to rise as leaders and show why they might find themselves starting. But I thought overall we stayed healthy, and we learned a lot about each other, and I think that's going to translate well into our first match.
Coach, you mentioned players starting to fill those leadership roles. Obviously, you had players graduate. You mentioned all the newcomers that come in. How do you see players that are returning and elevate in terms of years being at Ball State fill leadership roles, but then also some of those new players come in and do the same?
Yeah, we've been really impressed by, I kind of think of three main guys. Dyer Ball was a kind of in and out of a starting role last year. Vanis Buckholes, a starter all year last year. Lucas Pitlack, who was our starting libero last year. Those guys have been great leaders in what we've been doing all fall. And to be able to see them kind of rise into that position, knowing that we graduated our captains, Caleb and Felix and Dave Flores, it's really important to see that kind of leadership rise. And then out of our newcomers, really what has been the great thing about this class is their commitment and work ethic. It's a lot of that leading by example. And as a coaching staff, you kind of come in the gym and you got freshmen beating upperclassmen. That's always a good sign, and it kind of sets the tone. And I can't say that we've had that in the last couple years that I've been here.
Coach Cruz joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports. Coach, the schedule is out. The schedule is in front of everybody. January's coming right around the corner, just less than a month away. When you look at this schedule, starting off with Wabash College for the first couple of days of January, how can those games help set the tone and put you guys in a good spot where you want to be?
Yeah, I think us having a chance to play 3 matches before we hit the road to what I am anticipating is going to be a really good team in BYU is going to be a great way for us to just ensure that our squad is ready to go. And anytime you could have a match where you're going to be in front of the home crowd and get the guys acclimated to being back in the rhythm of playing, I think is going to be great. So our first 3 matches, I think, is going to be some really good competition and get a chance to see the Cardinals live here. And then I think the first big test is obviously going to be BYU, and that happens pretty quickly. So, but the springboard into getting yourself off on the right foot and putting yourself in front of competition that I think is going to challenge you is a great thing. And I think when you take a look at our schedule, you're gonna see that we have quite the competition level.
You talk about that competition level. There's teams like Penn State on that schedule. Hawaii's on that schedule. BYU, road trips, home matches, the Hawaii match at home. How do you mix in those types of matches into the season to help elevate your team?
Well, the end goal is come April, we want to be battle tested and ready to go for what that means as it relates to setting up the postseason for us in the conference tournament. And the objective was, let's put ourselves in front of the best competition in the country, and teams like Hawaii, who have been back-to-back national champs, have been in the national championship game for a handful of times in the last 10 years. Penn State, who was in the Final Four last year. Those are the kind of games that we need in order to make sure that when we start to hit our conference in early February and then finish off in April in a good level, all those matches are kind of a test to making sure the group is ready.
Coach Cruz joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports, talking some men's volleyball. Coach, we want to talk about you as a person as well, not just the volleyball coach, because your story is one that some people know, but not everybody knows. How would you sum up your volleyball journey up to this point in your career?
Well, I was fortunate enough to kind of be raised in a volleyball community on a small island between Guam and Hawaii. I felt like every piece of myself growing up was around volleyball. My family was really close to the sport, and that kind of led me to the Midwest, where I played volleyball at a small private school, Graceland University, which is an NAIA school. It was through that experience that got me into coaching. In my fourth/fifth year, I started interning with the women's volleyball program and was a student coach. And it was through that experience that really opened up my eyes to how exciting coaching could be. And ended up moving back home to Hawaii at that time. Took on a high school and a Division II coaching role on the women's side at Chaminade. And and then crazy, I ended up back in Iowa, where my wife is from, and started coaching at Grandview. And kind of the whole full circle moment for me is a lot of the Ball State alum that was a big part of how I got introduced to the opportunity here. Played Graceland back in the day when Graceland volleyball was a little bit more prominent then, and a lot of the, I don't want to say old timers, because if they're listening, they're going to maybe be a little offended by that. But through those networks, it was kind of a full circle moment for me, and here I am now.
What led to you having this Ball State opportunity as the head coach?
Well, I had just finished off the 2020 season, and we had won a national championship at Grandview. And kind of right before that, I had received a few text messages from some old friends through USA Volleyball that, I'd just simply asked, hey, we notice you haven't expressed interest in this Ball State position, and, we think you would be a great candidate. What do you think? And at that moment, my blinders were up, and I had my head focused in on really paying attention to trying to win a national championship with Grandview. And so I kind of just tabled the thought, and, after the season was done, Beth had invited me to come out for an interview on campus, and had a chance to meet some alumni, had a chance to meet with President Mearns on that visit. And, immediately within the first hour, I realized there was something special about Ball State, and that at the time, that was the first time I ever visited campus. Heard so many great things about the program and the history of the program. And, at one point you find that the values of the university and the athletic department are aligned with the things that me and my family were really looking forward to in our life. And one thing led to another, and here we are.
Coach, you mentioned the history of the university. You mentioned the history of Ball State volleyball. How special is it for you now to be entering year 3 and be a part of this program?
Well, when I first got here, you just understand that the Shondell family, ingrained in every level of volleyball in this country, was just something you just kind of know about. But then when you start to dive in and understand the impact that they had on the community, and they meaning their family, Dr. Don, and you start to meet people, I really started to understand what I am a part of in the first 6 months of the job. And every day when I'm out there in the community outside of Ball State doing something, club, recruiting, just simply being a fan, you kind of learn how wide of a net that Ball State has in the volleyball community. And a lot of that is not only the men's program, but the women's program. And for me, it's a really special opportunity, and I think one of the best jobs in the country when it comes to men's volleyball. One of the oldest programs in the country, and just to know that I get a chance to lead every day and be in a role that I genuinely love and enjoy being a part of is unique and special. And not a lot of people can say that in the country, because men's volleyball is such a small community. So there's just not a ton of Division I jobs out there.
Well, Coach, we're sure glad you're a Ball State Cardinal, and it's been fun to watch this men's volleyball on display the first 2 years of your tenure here. We can't wait to see what's in store for year 3.
Awesome. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Coach. This is episode 15 of This Week in Ball State Sports. January's coming up quick, Coach. Good luck this season.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
They fly down the court and fly through the air.
Left to right in transition, skies, flies, and dunks.
And we fly with the Cardinals.
Steele, top of the key, nobody in front of him, two-hand thunderous slam. Pearson, left corner, eyes and flies, and drops.
This is your home for Ball State Cardinals basketball.
Buzzer sounds, and they hang on with a defensive stand.
The Ball State Sports Network from Learfield.
Sometimes it's not the moment. It's the moment before the moment. The moment you make a choice. The moment you take control. The moment only you can own. GameBridge lets you invest on your terms. So you're not only in charge of this moment, but all the moments to come. Start investing now at GameBridge.io.
Welcome back inside This Week of Ball State Sports, and today we're joined by Laura Wright of Ball State Women's Swimming and Diving. Laura, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Laura, you guys just got off a pretty big trip in Minnesota. Overall, how would you describe the performance for the team?
I think we had some pretty good swims, especially since we had mid-season a week before, so we had a little more rest, and I think everyone did pretty good.
So when you have a chance to do those types of meets with rest and weaving in throughout the season that you guys have already competed a couple of times, how do those early competitions help for things like the Minnesota one?
Yeah, those are kind of just trial runs and kind of making sure we're see where we need to fix some things, so when we actually have rest, we can, really do our best. So,
how have you seen the team improve so far this year?
Yeah, especially on the women's side, I feel like it's a lot stronger. We had a lot of holes, and the freshmen really filled that, like things we were just losing in. So,
when you talk about the freshmen filling some of those gaps, how have you seen them come along, develop, and just be those pieces that the team was looking for?
Yeah, they kind of just came in really strong, which is good. They weren't very shy, so it was nice to see them just get up and race and not be afraid.
How much does that help the upper class?
I definitely think it helps the upperclassmen kind of being like, pushing themselves too, being like, oh, I don't want a freshman to beat me or something like that. So, yeah.
How has all of that competition and excitement helped you get better too?
Yeah, I love having teammates to race against. It makes me better, it makes them better, and it's like fun to be able to compete against them, and meets especially.
What would you say has been your favorite part of the year so far?
Honestly, I think our win against Buffalo, that was really fun, especially since they got second at MAC last year. So that was just kind of, we came in, we thought we would, we knew it was going to be close, but we didn't think we'd come with the win. So that was really fun.
That's a pretty big day, too, across the board from a swimming side, a festivities side. When you talk about some of those early season performances, how do you think that set the tone for the year?
Yeah, when I came in, we were all kind of just like, oh, Ball State's, whatever. And that kind of was like, oh, like we could like actually do really well. I think that put everyone in the mindset of like, yeah, like we could really throw down some good times.
And when you sit down and think about that performance and use that as a kind of a measuring stick for this year and the rest of the way, how have you seen your teammates also use that too?
Yeah, I think they're all kind of in the same mindset of like, yeah, I swim fast at the beginning of the season, and like I'm going to swim fast at the end of the season.
Laura, how do you think this team can continue to grow throughout the year?
I would say, yeah, I think just everyone, the team is a lot closer this year, which is good. So I think that helps a lot, that we're all on each other's side and we all want each other to do well.
Laura, when you talk about being a part of Ball State, swimming and diving, what has been your favorite part as a whole encompassing career here so far?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I think the support, honestly, and Jay is such a great coach. Like, he really kind of listens to us and he really wants the best for us. Like, that has been one of the coolest things, because I know a lot of coaches aren't that way. So it's nice to have support from your like coach and your teammates and like even the academic side. So
how much has Jay helped you as a competitor since you got here?
Yeah, I think he's helped me a lot. Like, he's just such a calm, collected person, and that's nice if you're nervous before a race or something. And he's someone that's always going to be on your side, and he's always rooting for you.
When you talk about some of your favorite memories and being a part of Ball State, what has made this year maybe a little bit different than past years? It could be good, it can be just a single memory or anything like that.
Like I said before, like the closeness, like this is the closest the girls team has been since I've been here, and it's like I thought we were close before, so it was like we could get even closer, which is fun. Yeah, and we just like to hang out with each other, which is fun. It's like being with your best friends all the time.
Laura, overall, how would you describe your journey at Ball State?
Yeah, I feel like I've had a pretty consistent one. Like, I've been lucky, especially swimming. Like, in college, women usually don't drop a whole lot of time. So just having the progress I have, I feel very blessed to be able to do that.
Laura, joining us here on This Week in Ball State Sports from the Ball State Women's Swimming and Diving Squad. How has your journey through swimming at the collegiate level helped you develop as a person, as an athlete?
Oh, definitely huge. It's helped me develop just kind of a mindset of like, when something hard is thrown at me, I'm like, I know I'm going to be okay. Like, no matter how hard it is, like I will get through it type of thing.
Why swimming?
Yeah, I tried every sport out there and I was not very good at them. And I started swimming in 5th grade and I just absolutely fell in love with it.
When you were looking through the process of possibly pursuing this for colleges and stuff, how much of an emphasis did you think that swimming could be for you at the college level?
Oh, I knew like from day one that I wanted to swim in college, so that was always a dream of mine. Yeah. What
stuck out about Ball State specifically?
Yeah, so they contacted me and I was like, there's no way I'm going to this school. And then I went on my visit and it it shocked me, like, how the team was together and, like, the campus itself. Like, being from Indiana, you hear, like, oh, Ball State, whatever. And, like, being here, I was like, oh, this is like a place to be, for sure.
Why is it a place to be?
Just, like, you don't get many opportunities as a swimmer to be able to pursue, like, any degree you want. A lot of programs will, like, not let you do certain things. And, like, the thing that stood out to me was Coach Day was like, yeah, like, academics here is number one. Like, I want you to have, like, a solid foundation for your future.
And how have you been able to use that foundation for your academic career?
Yeah, so funny. I'm actually going to take my 5th year, and I'm actually going to start my grad program next semester. So I'm graduating this semester. So, again, with that support, just him being like, yeah, go and do it.
What are you pursuing?
Speech-language pathology.
Where did that come to be from?
Yeah, my mom, when I was looking at Ball State, she's like, you need to look into this. And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, moms, you know. And I went and shadowed one of her best friends, which is a speech therapist. And I was like, oh, like, I could really see myself doing this for my job.
How have you been able to get some of that experience throughout your college career working in that field and also being a Division I collegiate athlete?
Yeah, it is tough to manage, but the thing with Ball State that makes it so great is like, they give you undergraduate hours, and yeah, it's like part of a class, and most schools don't do that, which is really cool. So that's why I wanted to continue my master's here too.
Laura, as we finish up here on This Week in Ball State Sports, what excites you most about the future of Ball State women's swimming and diving?
A lot. I think there's so much untapped potential. I think it could honestly, like, we could be a program that really rivals other programs in the future.
Well, Laura, we thank you so much for joining This Week in Ball State Sports. Good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
That wraps up episode 15 of This Week in Ball State Sports. Can't thank Laura Wright, Donan Cruz, and Jeff Mitchell enough for joining the podcast. Visit ballstatesports.com for all of your Cardinal needs. Support this Ball State program. It's in such a positive spot and moving forward in an incredible direction. Ballstatesports.com for your tickets. You have questions, call the ticket office, 888-BSU-TICKET. All your questions will be answered, and we'll get you ready for Ball State sporting events. That wraps up episode 15. We'll talk to you next week, Cardinals. Chirp, chirp.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gamebridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.